the way that we speak to our professor is not the same way that we speak to our friends. Saying this, you would have to think about the formalities of a email before you actually send it off to any teacher, not just your Spanish professor. But your Spanish professor, it would be a little bit different, as though some of the wording choice that you would use would not be the same as if you're talking to one of your friends. If you're talking to one of your friends, you would say something like, yo, or what's up, or what's hanging. But if you're talking to your teacher, on the other hand, you would say things such as, hi, how are you, how you're doing, things like that. So when you're addressing your teachers and you're trying to write an email in Spanish, first you will have to go ahead and write a subject. Your subject in Spanish, which is the asunto, is basically a brief summary of what your email is about to your professor. After you write your subject, next you will have to go ahead and greet your professor, which is called the saludo apropiado, which means your formal greeting. So your formal greeting would be things such as hola, buenos dias, profesora Gomez, things like that. Now, after you have your appropriate greeting, you will next go ahead and go straight into the message. The message, however, is mensaje in Spanish. It's broken into two parts: the introduction and the motive. So the introduction, you basically just write your name and what class you're in, assuming that your professor has more than one class or things like that. And then your motive, you go ahead and you write your message basically why you're emailing your professor, like, well, I missed class, or I was late to class and I was wondering if you can excuse my tardy, or something like that as such. After you go ahead and write your message, your last statement for your email would be the cierre or the despedida, which means either your closure or your formal farewell. So basically what I like to do in my emails, I like to put both. So what I mean by that is, in my for my closure, I would like to say, well, thank you in advance, for whatever it is that your motive was. And then your formal farewell, I would like to say, have a great day, or best wishes, or anything as such. So that's how I would go ahead and end my email. And then last but not least, the last thing you will have to do is just put your name, and that just goes to show, like, so your professor will actually remember who the email was from, even though you put your name and you in the introduction when you introduce yourself, but it still lets your professor know that they can remember you. It lets them remember you, basically. So that is basically how you write an email in Spanish to your professor, and it's basically the same thing as writing an email in English. Honestly, it's just the format is just a little different, and everything else is basically the same. So it should be easy. If you do know how to go ahead and write a normal email to your professor, then honestly it's the same. You just have to go ahead and make it into the right context.